Congratulations for booking your call. I want to do a little bit of a introduction of myself, my journey into investing, how I started with believing all the conventional wisdom, and then how things changed, and I ended up building my own portfolio, and how that quickly allowed me to make decisions about how long I was going to work, retire early, and be able to live and travel around the world in the way that I wanted to. But before I get into all of that, I want to just confirm that your call has been booked. You will be getting some emails and text reminders that when we get closer to that call, so that when I call you on the phone, you are ready to talk to me. It's really important that you pick up and that you show up. If you've booked this call, I'm assuming that you have something that you want to fix, or you want to try to establish yourself in a more financially secure situation. And the way to do that is to show up for yourself. And so this is the next step, just being there on the call. Once the call's done, you will receive the bonus report about how to do the step-by-step process for buying precious metals, specifically gold, but it applies even if you buy other types of precious metals. You can just follow those steps one by one, and it will take you within an hour. You could be buying your asset, knowing why you're buying it, knowing who to buy it from, knowing the questions to ask when you call them, so that you can verify that they are trustworthy and a good dealer to work with, and even know how to decide what to do with your gold once you receive it. These are steps that I followed myself when I made my first foray into buying precious metals. I've tracked it, I've used it with all of my clients, and it's really something that's become very valuable to women, particularly, who understand that they want to secure and protect the assets that they already have, especially in these times where there's so much disruption and uncertainty. So I am really excited about getting this out to you, because whether you continue on with me or with the program, I will know that you have the steps to take that can actually help you to protect what you already have today. And that's extremely important to me, that women have that kind of security and sense of peace of mind that comes from that stability in an asset that's been around for 5,000 years. So what I do want to share is that the call is with me directly. For this reason, I don't have a lot of time, because I work very one-on-one, hands-on with the clients that I bring on, right from the first call, where I get to know the people that I'm talking to and the people that are interested in coming into the community. And then I work with you throughout. And for that reason, I don't have a lot of time. And so I only bring on 1 or 2 people per month to get started, so that I can give you that level of support right from the very beginning. It's important for you to know that I am not a financial advisor. I don't come out of the traditional financial community. I am a self-directed, self-educated investor, and that is what I teach, because what I've learned is that what we have been told and the financial industry is set up in a way where they say, trust us, give us your money, trust us, we'll take care of you. And my journey started when I realized that that was a lie. And therefore, I went out of my way to learn my own investing and how to invest and follow what the wealthy people do, because what the wealthy people do is not what we are told to do or encouraged to do. And there's a reason for that. The financial industry makes a lot of money off of our money, and what they're making means that we're not making it. And that's what keeps us in the system for 30 years and still just barely getting ahead. And it doesn't need to be like that. I was able to recover in 10 years from the financial crisis and be retired. And that is available to everyone if you're willing to take ownership of your own investing. And today, because of disruption and because of all of the uncertainty, there are opportunities everywhere, which means you can do it even faster than I did it. So I don't manage your money. I don't tell you where to invest it. I teach you everything that I know about investing, about diversification, about getting money into places that only the wealthy really know about, because there's no money in it for the financial community. And that's where we put portions of our money, and we understand how to do that. I also work with people only a few at a time, because every person's situation is unique. Your goals are unique, the money that you have available to work with, your time horizon, how much time you have to invest, whether you're starting early in life or starting later, and really your risk tolerance. What kinds of things. You're not necessarily going to invest in everything. And so we look at what those choices are, and we look at what is going to fit to your personality, your goals, your strengths, your weaknesses, and all of that goes into the blueprint. And we actually start working through that right there on that first call, so that you have a plan established. The broad strokes are right there. You will know exactly what you need to do to go and get started and move forward. And you can start making decisions right from the beginning. So the important thing is that you get that confidence, that you have a plan and you feel confident going and making decisions. Some can do it right off the call. Others need a little bit of support, but we'll go through that. We'll discuss it. And then depending on where you're at and how much support you need and where you're starting, I will decide whether I have a spot for you in the program. And if I do, then I will make an offer for you to join. And it's completely up to you again to make that decision. If you believe that this is something that's going to help you, then we will talk about what next steps are. Otherwise, you have the blueprint at the end. You take it, you can start implementing it on your own. The trick is to get started. The most important thing is to show up, then step up and take action and start building your wealth, so that you have that financial peace of mind and that security that comes with controlling your own decisions and moving forward. So let me just tell you a little bit about my story and why I really am so adamant about people, but particularly women who have been discouraged from really knowing about investing and taking ownership of it. And I know we sort of think about money differently than men often, and we've been discouraged. It's only in the last couple of decades that we were even allowed to have our own bank accounts without a man co-signing on our accounts. There are cultural things that we are still living with because of those kinds of attitudes. And so this is why I focus on working with women. We have a little further to go to get to that level of comfort that we need. But what you are going to find is that you don't need to be a financial guru. You don't need to be an analyst. You don't need to be a full-time investor. You don't need to do any of those things that we've been told you have to do to be successful in investing. It isn't like that. I've never done that. What I have learned as I started my own journey is that I have fallen in love with the stories of the world, the stories of the people that are creating amazing things in the world, the stories out of history about why is the economy the way it is and what is going on in the world today. And the fact that actually it's looked like this in the past and we've always survived it. We've always come ahead. Society has grown. Civilization is better off now than it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We always come ahead. We go through times of difficulty and challenge, but we always end up coming out on top and figuring it out and moving forward. And it's exciting. And as you start doing this, investing gives you a real good reason to go learn all those stories and find out. Because when you do that, you start to go, oh, I understand what's going on in the world now. And you don't just get more confidence about your money, but you start to be able to listen to the stories and the signs and start connecting the dots. And all of a sudden you understand better what's going on around you. And that takes the fear away. When the fear goes away, then you can see opportunity. And when you can see opportunity, you see the times now as exciting, not as something to be afraid of, but something really exciting. And this is what I love sharing with women and people that join our community, women that join our community, because the world is an amazing place right now. But we have to know enough to recognize where the opportunities are and how to take advantage of those to our own benefit. And then once we are established, then we can turn and back out into the big world and make our own impacts because we've taken care of ourselves first. So let me go back and give you sort of my story. How did I get here? Why am I so passionate about this? And why do I want to share it with women? And it really comes down to, I did the same thing we've all done. I grew up, I went to school, I graduated, I went to university, I got my degree, I went and found a job. I was probably one of the lucky ones. Well, I had a few times where I had gaps because things changed and I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I went and found another job. And I ended up eventually creating my career in nuclear plants, doing projects in nuclear plants. I was a single woman. I had been married for a short period of time, and then just to take a really good opportunity. Things weren't working as well at home, and so we sort of took that as a sign that it was time to break apart and make that move. And so I relocated from Canada into the States to take this position when I was 39. And then 8 years later, I had my son. I had a son. I was 47 at the time. It was 2005. And I remember it was such an exciting time. It was magical. I loved it. And I remember sitting in the dark in the night, nursing my son, dreaming about what kind of life did I want to create for him and what kind of opportunities did I want to make sure that he had. And of course, 2005, that was sort of the heyday of globalization, and companies were moving overseas and people were starting to travel more, and the nomadic life was sort of getting roots, and people were able to work and live in different places because the internet was starting to take off. And it was just so exciting and so many opportunities. And so my dream was to bring up my son as a global citizen, living in all the different continents while he was still young enough to be living with me. And so that was the dream. And I figured, all right, 10 years, 12 years, I will be ready to retire, 59 and a half, the magic age in America, to have access to your retirement funds. And so that was the goal. 10 to 12 years, I'll be financially free, ready to go. And things started working, and I started building, but I was still in the conventional wisdom of just put more money into the processes and the systems that were there. So 401ks, pension plans, the usual thing, that's what we were being sold in those days. All through the 20th century, that was the model. Then in 2008, we had the financial crisis. And I was fortunate working in nuclear plants, the electric power company. I didn't have the same risk of losing my job that many had in those times. And so I was able to survive it. But I had been moving forward to build this portfolio And now all of a sudden it had been cut in half. And I didn't know when it was coming back. And it went on for 2 or 3 years of things were getting worse and worse. And I wasn't moving towards my goals. I was moving away from my goals. And so I talked to my broker and the people that ran the plan. And I was asking them, well, what's going on? Like, you promised that if we giving my money to you, you were going to take care of this. And I was going to have my investments when I was ready for them. And if all I had to do was keep giving you my money and you were going to take care of me, I was going to be covered. And it was like, no, we would never do that. Like, we don't promise anything, and we don't know, and you can, and so when I asked, well, what should I do? It was, oh, no, we don't make those decisions. You have to make those decisions. And so I went and did some reading, and I thought, okay, I want to put money into gold. I want to protect myself. I want to establish that baseline and be safe. And when I talked to them again, they go, oh, no, we don't support gold in these programs, and you'd have to do that on your own. And completely left to my own devices, except I knew nothing. And that's when I thought, you cannot depend on the financial industry to take care of you. They will not take care of you, and they wash their hands of it when crisis comes. So I went, it's time to learn on my own. And back in those days, there were no courses, there were no clubs, there weren't anything. There was financial advisors and there were books. And so I went out and I started reading. And I thought, well, what should I be reading? I don't want to be an analyst. I don't want to read about a whole bunch of guys that work in the financial industry. I want to read about how wealthy people have acquired their wealth and how they've saved their wealth in times just like these. And those were the stories that I read. And they're history stories, and they're stories about big families. Some families did it very well. Some families did it very poorly. The Rothschilds have had, they've been building their wealth for 400 years. The Vanderbilts grew their wealth for 50 years. And then when the old man died, the family basically lost their money for the next 3 generations. And so there are right ways to do it, and there's wrong ways. And it's not about how much money you have. It is about how you use and manage and understand how money works. And that was a great learning for me. And so I started looking for investing in the ways that the wealthy invest, so that most of the wealth is protected and some of it is used to grow more wealth. And it became a fascinating, just a fascinating way to look at the world. And so from reading books, I started following newsletters. They were relatively early in those days, because the internet, people starting businesses on the internet, that was still pretty early days in 2006, 2007. And so there were a few newsletters out there, and I started tracking them, and I listened, and they're very good at telling stories, and it slowly grew an understanding of how to think about investing and how to apply the rules that the wealthy do. And the more I did it, and then I started actually taking some actions and going and putting part of my wealth into safe places. I didn't put all my savings into my 401k. I put some into other assets like property and precious metals and insurance, special kinds of insurance, and just in different places. And then also learned how to grow the parts that were not sitting in those safer places, and how to make it grow faster, and what some of the new alternative investments are today that are even better opportunities. And then I started and I learned by trial and error, and I did well in some days and not so well on others. And I learned by doing, and I learned the tips and the tricks for doing it well. And as I went through, it started to snowball, and it got better, and I grew quite quickly. And all of a sudden I wasn't making that measly 4 and 5% that the industry wants to tell you is a good return. I was now making 25 and 30% in this bull market that we had. And that's when I truly realized that in the conventional wisdom of using the investor, the financial investment community, they're making the money off of your hard work and your money. But when you take ownership, you actually get to hold all of those profits, compound all of those profits for yourself. And that's how you can get to your financial freedom, your financial security, not in 30 years, not in 20 years, maybe today, not even in 10 years, but in 5 years, 7 years, it completely changes that growth trajectory for you when you take ownership of your own investing. And it's not hard. I'm not an analyst. I don't crunch numbers. I just pay attention to what's going on in the world. I look at the opportunities that are presented, and I use my experience that I've gained as I've gone along. And so for my clients, 2020 came and we had a crash, and I wasn't working in a business in those days. I was retired by that point. We were living in Malaysia. I had retired in 2017, 2018. We made our first jump. We'd gone to Malaysia. We were living in Penang in a penthouse apartment overlooking the Straits of Malacca, enjoying life, creating community. My son was 12. He had friends there. We were living that dream that I had in 2005 when I was sitting there nursing him. We were doing it. We had achieved it. And then in 2020, we had the next crisis and the world shutting down and everything stopping and the markets crashed. But it wasn't a problem because all of my assets were not sitting in the stock market. And what it meant was I didn't have to be in a sense of fear and scarcity like I had been in 2008 because I was protected. I could now look for the opportunities that come when we get those corrections. But at the same time, I started receiving phone calls from girlfriends, from my past, from my sister, from women that I'd known who knew what I had been doing over the last few years, and they wanted to know. They just had gone through that experience that I had gone through in 2008, and they were experiencing it in 2020, and they were ready to make some different decisions. And that's when I realized there is a need out there to help women to be prepared for these cycles, because it's just a cycle. And it comes and it goes. And once you become knowledgeable, you start to recognize the cycle. You know where we are in the cycle. You understand how to prepare before the crash happens, before the bad things happen. There was, for people that understood the cycle, there was an expectation that something would happen in 2020. We just didn't know what it was going to be because the catalyst is always different. But the cycle durations are always the same. And so for people who are participating, they're aware. What's interesting is the financial community is aware as well, but they don't do that to help you get ahead. They take advantage of that cycle to help them make even more based on the money that they're holding for you. So this is why it's so important to become knowledgeable, to understand how these systems work, to take control of your investing. It doesn't mean you have to do all the work yourself. It just means you have to know enough that when you utilize a financial advisor or a financial provider of any sort, you know more than they do, and you will. It took me no time to know more than the people I was utilizing to manage my money. And today, they don't even try to tell me what I should be doing. I contact them and I say, this is what we're going to do. And they go and they take the action and they do it. And every person is able to do the same. You don't have to do all the work. If you do some of it I do on my own because I don't want it in their hands. It is in my hands and I want to make those decisions. And it doesn't take long to start being able to read what's going on. It's a system. It's a very simple system. So I hope that you're excited about finding out more about this, pulling together a plan for yourself, a blueprint to get started, to see where you are and what your next steps are, and that you're going to join me on the call so that we can actually start putting that plan together for you so that you have something to take with you and start, whether you do it on your own or you do it with me, you know what your next steps are, you know where to go find the information that you need, and you can do it like I did it and do it all on your own. Takes time when you do it on your own. There's a lot of reading, it's a lot of going through and doing it that way. The community, being part of the community is a little different because everybody's learning together. So we're sharing all the time and we're not having to go search things out. We're just sharing the things we come across, and enough people talking about what they're coming across, the dots become very obvious and we see how they connect. And we then get that confidence that comes with this time of disruption is not a time of fear. It's a time of excitement and of opportunity and shortcutting your path to financial security first, and then financial freedom, literally, where you get to choose. Not that you would stop working. I love what I do. I wouldn't stop working, but I get to decide when, and I don't have to work for the man. I get to work for myself, and I get to do it from wherever I want to, anywhere in the world. Today we're in Mexico, and this is what comes from taking ownership of your own financial destiny, knowing what you want, and then taking action and just following the steps. It's very straightforward. This is what the 21st century is all about. And again, this is something that we talk a lot about how the cycle has shifted and how it's not about giving over our power and our money and our decision-making to others, but taking it back, trusting in ourselves. We're women. We've figured things out our whole lives, and we make things happen every day. We manage our money every day. We just don't think about it that way. And yet you're completely capable of doing this. And I think, like me, like the women in our group, you are going to get so excited when you see the opportunities that are there. So I hope this has inspired you to come meet me on the call, share a little bit of your story so that we can see where you're starting from. We can build something for you to use, and then we'll just go from there. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you very soon, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.